Hello everyone, I hope you're having a good day. So today I'm going to be showing you all about the Ship Design Workshop, also known as the SSC or StarShip Creator. So first off, a lot of you guys have been wondering, well, where is it? So for reference points, what you're going to do is you're going to look for the black and orange shop that says, "Want a unique ship? Design your own." Now, where is this? So on the station, I'm going to point out the important bits. So it's literally right next to the easy build. So if you're at the easy build, what you can do is you can look one direction, and if you see a refill station and the marketplace, look the other way, and the ship design workshop will be right there. It's also next to the buy a ship center for the basic ships, and is across from Sunny Ship Center. And then over there, where you see that flashing icon with the chair, that's where your starter jobs are. So it's essentially kind of on the opposite side of the station from there. And then all you gotta do is you can either fly there yourself, or you can get a ride from one of your friends or in your laborer and just do a quick flight over here. And then there are two things I'm gonna point out to you. So this place is very much different from the easy build hall. First off, you're not going to have any benches, any workbenches, and you're going to have this group editing thing, this editing screen. But first off, when you enter in, what you're going to want to do is you see that little platform over that little thing over there. You're going to walk up to that and you can bind an insurance transfer point over there. And that way you can just easily pop over to here. So when you get here, what you're going to do is you're going to go up and you can spawn ships on the right, but you can design ships on the left. And keep in mind, if you're in a group, another option will pop up for you to edit in a group setting, and that lets you join other people or other people join you from your group. But we're just going to do private for now. And so you'll load in, and this will be faster, much faster than anything in the normal universe because it's totally unloaded. But so we're going to start with our movement keys first. The basics are really just there. So W, S, A, and D for movement, and then there are a couple ways you can go up and down. You can hold your right click and you can look around and then go backwards or forwards and go up. You can hold the space bar, and that lets you go directly up and down wherever you're facing. Then there are a couple other things like pressing tab. So tab is going to be very helpful for everyone because when you press tab, it toggles your movement from your cursor to your regular endoskeleton looking around. It's just like in universe. Then when you're moving around, you can hold Alt, and I think it's a little bit difficult to see, but you can hold Alt and it makes you slower, which is very handy when you're working on the inside of a ship. And you can hold Shift and go faster. So Alt slower, Shift faster, just pressing a button, that's the normal thing. Next up, we're going to kind of have the interface. So if you look around, this isn't the normal interface. I like mine to be set up a specific way. But if you want to get the normal interface, what you're going to do is you're going to say restore window layout, and it'll look like this. On the left, you'll have your asset browser. That's all of the parts you're bringing in. On the bottom is going to be your toolbox, all the tools you're going to be using. And then on the right, you're going to have your Moose, the multi-user undo system. That's not super important. Properties, which is where you're going to be editing values, which is extremely important. And tool options, which will also be very important. And then along the top, you've got these, which is basically just toggling the panels on the side, material choices, scene view, and all of this stuff. Now, what I would say that's very important to figure out is your material cost. This one will let you figure out how much you need to build your ship while you're building it. The building budget, so that way you keep your ship on track. And then the virtual mass. The virtual mass lets you add the maximum mass to your cargo crates before you finish building a ship. This is really helpful because you can figure out how slow your ship is going to be at full load and if it actually is able to take the full load of ores. And then in your visualization tools, center of mass and center of thrust. Handy to have, but you don't necessarily need to have them. Then up here, well actually, I'm going to hit Control Z a whole lot and then get back to my normal screen. So just keep in mind, Control X, Control C, and Control V all work. Control Z undo, Control C copy, Control V paste, and Control X is cut. And those are all the basic keys. But so in the top left, then we're going to have camera. So if you want to change how fast your camera moves, how sensitive it is, all of that, that's right up there. Then you've got your settings, so you don't actually have to pull up your main menu with escape and do your settings. Selection, that's just your selection tool, which is equipped already. And then your file. And this is where you're going to be doing a lot of things. So first off, you've got new. Now every time you load into the editor, it is going to be blank, so you don't have to press new when you load in. But then open or manage blueprints and open pre-made blueprint. Just think of open or manage blueprints as your personal blueprints, and then pre-made blueprints as ones that the developers have let us use. So if you want to make a ship based off one you've already seen, they might be in there. And then you've got save, 3 different kinds. Save and save as. If you haven't saved first already for a ship, it'll ask you for a name. Then save as will let you name it or overwrite another save file. Save selection as, if you select a part of your ship and you want to save that as a different thing, go ahead, that's what save as selection. And then your reset editor and restore window and your exit. Now what we're going to do is we're going to open a blueprint and we're going to click on our Imperial Nebulon B, and then a couple extra options will show up in our file. And it does take a while depending on your ship size, because this is quite a large ship. So when something like this happens, when you have something in your little screen here, you can buy custom spaceship, and this will tell you what's up. Now I can't build this because all of these are invalid, and your ship has to be a solid ship. Everything has to be connected to it before you can buy it. But that would be how you buy a ship, and it'll ask you for all of your ores and the money required to build said ship. Then we'll go through the toolbox and a couple of other handy little things that you can do when you're building. So as I said, Control X, C, V, and Z, those are all actual keys that you can use when you're building, which is very handy. Then, so we're going to go through your first tool, the move tool. And this is something that you guys see me use a lot when I'm in the editor. If I click on something, and so to select multiple things, what you can do is you can click and drag, or you can click, hold shift, and click more. And this is with left click. And if you want to deselect, all you have to do is hold control and then click, and then it will deselect that part. Then what I do is I hold shift and I drag on one of these movement vertices, and that's a copy. That will automatically copy things for you, which is extremely handy. I use it all the time, and it'll save you a lot of time when you're copying things. So that's the move tool. It lets you move things in 3 axes, or you can grab the little white square and move it in all 3 at the same time. You can also move it in the top right, in your tool options with X, Y, and Z. Keep in mind, these all have hotkeys, so you can switch to all of them very easily, and it's essentially just along the top of your keyboard, but some are not set, so you will have to set those. Then you've got your rotate tool. So it's roughly the same as your move tool. You can rotate in a specific direction or grab the center and it'll rotate it with all. But this one has a couple extra tool options. So first off, the rotate tool tick amount, this will automatically be at 15 because 15 degrees in STARBASE is the generally accepted editing angle for directions, because you never see things in like 5, 10 degree angles. They're all in 15, 30, 45. And so this will be automatically set to 15. I like to have it at 5 due to the ship I'm building. Then your rotation tool, rotation speed, that's self-explanatory if you want it to go fast. Then your select tool, really it's selections. It's real straightforward. Nothing much there. Then your bolt tool. So this is very important. If you don't want to do auto bolt, or if something is messing up with auto bolt, this is what you're going to be using. Left click places a bolt, right click takes it away. So like just like that. But keep in mind, when you've got this like purple icon here, that means you can't bolt. When you've got a green icon, that means you can. And when you've got orange, that means there's something back there, but it can't quite reach it. So you're going to have to find a different way or a closer spot to connect it. Then next up, we've got the cable and pipe tool. So both are going to be roughly the same, but in your tool options, you can click between them. So what you do is you select, and it's left click to place, right click to take away, and boom, you kind of just keep building until you hit something, and that's how you do it. Now with cable, I mean, you'll have this red end if it's not connected to anything, but with pipe it is a little different. You'll have that yellow square. And also just keep in mind, to stop editing with these or to delete, it's right click, and you can hold right click to just delete a ton, so watch out when you're doing that. Then you've got your durability tool, again with two modes. Left click lets you see the structural durability and the various issues of your build, because what you can do is you can click on the squares and you'll see what issues are wrong with it. This is very helpful for when you're troubleshooting your ship if something is being weird. And essentially green is good, yellow is almost there but something's fishy, and then red is you need some help. Then if you right click, you'll get this. Now you might be wondering what this is, but this is essentially stress and strain. So the more purplish pink the color is, the worse your stress is. So right now it's not too bad, and in the areas with blue it's actually quite good, but back here you can see it is getting a little stressed. So that's something to help you figure out what you're doing. Then we've got my favorite tool, hotkey number 7, the snapping tool. So what you'll do is you'll have something selected and everything has snapping points. And if you want to get it to line up to something, you select a snapping point, you have it turn green, and then you go over to where you want it to snap to, and you hover over, and then you can click, and it will bring it over and snap. Now it can't snap here because there's something in the way, so it'll just return it to its original position. And if you wanted to do this with selections, you can do that. If you had this whole thing selected and you wanted to snap the whole thing, you can. It's very doable. Next up, socket tool. It lets you get through things like plates and beams, and it makes a nice way for you to get a cable outlet on either side of, say, a wall or your ship. Very handy. I don't like to use it, but it's more of a style choice because you can just put a cable or pipe through a beam. Next up is your paint tool. So when you select it, it will bring up your paint colors thing, and then you can just paint to your heart's delight. Some parts can be painted, some can't, and some of the parts that can be painted, it doesn't really have a big effect on them either. And then in tool options, you'll notice we've got a couple new selection things. So you've got your brush radius, which is, how big it is, your depth, which is how deep it goes, and then you can select if you wanted to paint like decals, ship parts, all that kind of stuff. But so we'll close that for now and go on to the next. Next up, you have your auto bolt tool, arguably one of the most important tools on this entire list. So what is it? Well, auto bolt lets you auto bolt. I'm pretty sure a lot of you know that, but what you can do is if you say have a big ship like this, it lags a lot when you're trying to bolt things in. You can make a selection and then apply to selection, and it'll only bolt that, which will save you a lot of time by just clicking that checkbox in the tool options. And along with your add bolts, you've got remove bolts, and the remove attachment plates isn't really a thing anymore, so don't have to worry about that. But you've got your normal remove bolts, and that will just remove all of the ones that you either have in your selection or across the entire ship. So be careful with that and make sure you have your Control Z ready if you do something accidental with remove bolts. Next up, you've got materials, and it opens up this different colored background. So this is telling you what material it's made out of. Now, everything here is Bastium, so it looks like that, but you can make parts out of pretty much every material under the sun. Now, keep in mind, they all have very different values, and some are much more difficult to get than others, and everyone has a give and a take. So if you're switching materials, just keep in mind what you're doing. And then in your tool options, you'll have the same stuff as your paint tool, except, a couple less checkboxes. So you'll still have your radius and your brush depth. Pretty straightforward. Then we've got our welding tool. Now, I forgot to mention the material and the welding tool. These are the two tools that aren't actually bound to a hotkey. So if you want to have them to a hotkey, you're going to have to do that yourself. Then, so it's got a bunch of clicks, but it's all right. So you've got your weld beams, which would weld a single beam at a time. So if you went up here, it would just weld the one, not all of them. Then you've got your unweld beams, which, does that. Then your classic apply to selection, apply to all, and then replace all beam bolting, which I would not recommend you use if you have a really big structure, because it can kind of mess with your connected bits that are connected directly to the beams. And then finally, what we have is our decal tool. So on the right, you're going to have, in your tool options, you're going to have a ton of different little things. So you've got your scale, your rotation, and snapping to surfaces. So if you want to snap real easy, and in position and rotation, then your snapping distance and the scale increment. And then, so also say you have decals behind something, only visible decals. Now, how do you get a decal, you ask? On the left side, it's going to be all the way kind of in the middle. It's below your actual parts and will be in decals. And you've got alphanumeric, flat shapes, and textured shapes, all of which you can put on your ship using this tool. And so that pretty much covers all of the things in your toolbox and a lot of the different things that you'll be using to really save the day, such as that shift copy. I know a lot of you guys have been asking about that. But just keep in mind, there will be stuff added and potentially changed after this video. So these are all keybinds that you can find in your settings. You can also click up there. And then what you do is, it's not in Spaceship Designer, but it's in controls. And there's your movement, there's your ship controls. But if we go all the way down here to your shared designer controls, this is going to be where you figure out where everything is. And so there's a lot in here, and it's quite handy. And also things like modules. Now, there are a couple things that are handy that I will add on to the end of this video. So the first off, F5. F5 is the keybind for bringing you into the test area, which there's also a button up here for it. It's right there. And then, so yeah, just keep in mind all of your modules and everything, those all have keybinds. And I guess I can explain modules real quick. But so a module is a grouping of items. You can click create, and then you can, if you select more, attach it to the module. Or you can detach, and that'll basically throw away the whole module. Or you can also save it and then rename it here, and then that way you can bring it into other creations. And it'll always pop up here on the left, and that's quite handy. There are also pre-made modules, and I use these all the time, so keep in mind that those are there. Other than that, that is pretty much the ship designer and all of the basic tools. And I do encourage you to look at those hotkeys because there are going to be a lot of things that are nice and handy in there. And if you get used to all of these hotkeys, it's going to save you so much time when you're building a ship, and it'll make you look, I mean, it'll make you look pretty professional, which is always a lot of fun. So I'd like to thank you all for watching, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.